everybody? Welcome to another episode of Coffee Hour. My name is Paul Abernathy, your host as always. Thanks for joining me this morning here. It is a Monday morning, getting your week started. It is the 18th of August. Can't believe that we're at August already. And the summer's going away. This is going to be the second winter I'm coming up into, or fall that I'm coming up into here since moving everything back to Virginia. We're going to pray for no snow this year, hopefully. But at any rate, we are glad to be back in Virginia. Lived here my whole life until we moved in 2014 to Texas. It's a great experience in Texas. And then we moved back. And so, again, everything keeps rolling and we keep training. So, again, we know that you guys, can have other choices that you can make during the day. And some of you getting up really early out on the West Coast. And we appreciate you getting up and taking the time to be with us here at Coffee Hour. Maybe win some free goodies or just join us for the chat, the banter, discussion. Remember, I live vicariously through you folks. So do me a favor. In the comments, let me know who you are, where you're from, what you got going on, all those type of things. And please, if you feel like you want to chime in during the show, please do so. Let us know what you got going on or what you might have a question or whatnot. And I'll be happy to try to get to it. If I do not get to it and you do have an in-depth question, remember, we do have options. You can go to paulabernathy.com. It's a free portal. We do have a few podcasts coming out here in the next day. Just polishing it up right now on different topics that you folks have sent to us. Most of you, I either answer it right away or give you a response back when I can. Again, I cannot design your system. I'm an NEC consultant. I can stick to the NEC. But if you have a problem with your install or whatnot, that's something you need to consult with an engineer or design professional. I cannot, for legal reasons, get into designing your system for you, but I can give you code on certain things if you ask for it. Okay, so remember that. I'm getting a lot of emails where people want me to design their system. I cannot legally do that for you. You have to do it yourself, okay, or have somebody or hire somebody. We have a consulting service that we can help you with that. That's a totally different service. But at the end of the day, the Let's Ask Paul process is just to kind of answer your code questions and give you some code insight. That's about the best I can do with it. Okay. All right. So on today's episode, we are going to be digging into probably in the residential world, it's the best selling product out there. I've talked about these quite a few times, but usually when I'm talking about this topic, it's more about the code ramifications in Article 334 than it is about the product itself. So I'm going to kind of mirror the two today and see if we can't get done. As Adam says, better bring more than just a simple cup of coffee because who knows where I'll go with it. Before I do that, let's talk about the sponsors of the show. Okay, Fast Tracks Tube is, without a doubt, probably the fastest growing video specific to electricians platform. I don't know of any other platform that does what Fast Tracks Tube can do. And we are expanding it. We're going to be adding gamification to it. You've heard me talk about it, or some of our social media posts. And by the way, I don't do all of our social media posts. A lot of them are automated, and some of them are done by a third party and software. And then some are done here. Darlene will do some, and then I'll do some, and then Jeff does some. There's other things. So they're all over the place, and they're all different topics, but it's all part of social media. We don't use our social media to teach lessons. We use our social media to give snippets about the company, what's going on, little things that we have, that type of thing. If you want to learn on social media, it's tough because some of the social media crap out there is going to be misleading, and we're not going to jump into that in that type of thing. So we may give you a snippet here or there, a little lesson, something little. But again, by far, when it comes to things like TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, that is not our platform for teaching. We will do it at YouTube occasionally, but most of our teaching is going to be over on Fast Tracks Tube. So again, people say, well, I got to pay for that. Yes, you do. Sorry, just the way it is. And again, that's going to turn some people off. That's okay. There's a lot of free options out there. Feel free to enjoy those if you wish. So you might have heard that we are expanding Fast Tracks Tube. We're adding the gamification. We did a test. And I can't remember, Jeff, tell me, maybe it was a 6-month test with the very first interactive video, which is Illuminaire's Closets. We did a very first test, looked at the stats and the scoring, and wanted to make sure that it was working right, that it wouldn't let people take it and then take it again and get their score better. We working on that. We saw the other day with Jonathan was trying it out, and it seems to be working. So what we've done with that now is we've given the green light, and we're going to roll out the other ones, and there's going to be videos with interaction. Basically, got to ask questions to go forward. Of course, you can skip all of it if you want, but we're going to be doing the interaction part of it to try to make it a little bit easier for people to learn, and it's going to enhance our training. Secondly, we are going to start taking a lot of our training that's in the Fast Tracks program and videoizing it, turning it into a video training series as well. So that's what we're going to see over the next rest of this year and part of next year. That's our long-term goal, is to create the courses into video so they work together a little bit better. So we'll be working on that. And also, some of you may have seen that we launched a new mascot for Electrical Code Academy, and people have been seeing it. I noticed that a lot of them went out to social media, a lot of images. And so I just want to explain what that is. So this right here, this little figure right here is available in our black and white version, and as well as been colorized. This is... y'all might have seen him. This is Buzz Watts. So it is our new mascot. He's going to be used in a lot of our future promotions within the gamification. He's going to be used. And we were asked, and this all came about, by the way, people ask, it's like, Paul, you're a grown-ass man creating these things. Yeah, I am. But what we did was we created a process to create a mascot and his little ecosystem of this to create a blog series that talks, that kind of is a lighthearted approach to electricians. Again, sometimes we need a little easy read and relaxation and something funny or whatnot, but we want it driven. And again, I do things that I don't care what other people agree with or dislike or whatever, because I don't really give a shit what anybody says. I do what I want to do, and I really don't take advice. I really don't. I don't really care what other people think. I do what I want to do. Okay. So again, that's it's either good or bad. But anyway, we created this mascot, and he changes a little bit depending on his temperature. And what I mean by that is whether he gets upset or mad or whatnot, and his arms turn into lightning bolts or they stay regular. He's going to constantly be changing. What stays the same is his basic facial feature. That stuff stays the same. But he also has a sidekick called Ampy, which in future blogs, they'll get into little mischief and things like that. And of course, he has a nemesis that was created, which is named Arc Flash. Damn, I gave away. There's another one coming, but anyway, Arc Flash is his evil nemesis in the series, and that'll be available over on our blog. If you read it, you read it. If you don't, you don't. You say, I'm a grown-ass man. You're the same guy that's probably playing around on the job site anyway, so suck it up, buttercup. It is what it is. But it is our mission, and we really don't give a shit whether somebody likes it or not. So if you got an opinion on it and you don't like it, piss off. I'm just saying. It is what it is. That's what you get with us. You get what you get. You don't have a choice. Okay? All right. So there you go. So let's go on and live vicariously through our folks. We appreciate you. Here you go. Again, although I will say when we don't care, we do want topics and discussions. And if you want to join in, you can go to paulabernathy.com. It's a free portal to ask your code questions. We will help you there. Okay. As far as the company direction, I don't listen to anybody. I do what I want to do. What's up, Paul? Welcome. Glad to have you here. There you go. Hashtag Arc Flash. I think Paul likes the Arc Flash. I don't have him geared up. I show you what he looks like, but I don't have him geared up on the screen here. So what's up, Jonathan? Glad to have you here, Jonathan. Welcome. Adrian. Glad to have you here, Adrian. Welcome. Frank the Great's in the house. Welcome, Frank. Glad to have you here. It is Monday, getting the week started, making that money. Let's go. What's up, JC? Glad to have you here. Welcome. David's throwing up the good morning to everybody. The CMECP is in the house. What is up, Adam? Adam says he's got his pint of coffee on hand because he figures it's going to be a long coffee hour. It always seems to be long when I get on the mic. What's up, Haas? Good morning, Haas. Right up here in Richmond, Virginia, right up the road from us. Good morning, Manny. Glad to have you here, my friend. Good morning. Corbin. Good morning, Corbin. Glad to have you here. Welcome. Poppy's in the house. What's up, Poppy? Showing us how to do the hashtag win to get it on the spin. And we will be adding, if you win a minimalist wallet, if you do win a minimalist wallet when we do the drawing, then you can choose the new ones with. This was a very simplistic one here. They're obviously going to get more detailed, different ones, but this is a very simplistic one. This right here is Buzz Watts. Remember, kids, electricity is no joke. Okay, we have some of those that are available over on our website if you want one. We'll put your name on it if you want, whatever, but they're available. So if you win a minimalist wallet, you can choose from this one as well if you win a minimalist wallet drawing during the drawing. Okay, that's if you want. That's just your choice. What's up, Francis? Francis, I see that you got Fast Track's tube yesterday, and I noticed right away that because we had a little issue with the coupon, I made sure that we gave you the 25% reimbursement to you. Again, people realize that we are not about taking people's money. We believe we give value, and if I notice something's not right or whatnot, I jump on it, or Darlene will jump on it. Look, we want to give you the value. We have to sell courses, we have to sell products, we have to sell subscriptions. At the end of the day, our mission is still the same: to teach you the National Electrical Code, and we're dedicated to your success. That's it. I don't give you no fuss, no muss, no fake, no fluff. I don't try to blow smoke up your ass. I give you what I give you. Learn from me, take what you can learn, and then if you move on, you move on, but take what you learn from me. This is why I don't worry about subscribers on things like YouTube, right? I don't need 600, 700, 800,000 subscribers, because I realize that people use me, abuse me, and then they move on. And that's fine too. I just want to see you be successful. That's all. Let's see here. What's up, Melting Toast? Is the tube up today? It's supposed to be. I don't know that it's not. Hold on, let me go check. It's supposed to be up for me. Might be. Also, remind people that have iPhones, sometimes the videos and stuff can play funny. It's usually the protection systems that are in your kind of in your iPhones that are causing the problems a lot of times. Let's see here if it's up. It may or may not be up today. Let's see here. Let's see here. It says it's watching. No, it looks like it is not. They have. We're gonna. I don't know what the deal is with it today. So you're right. It looks like it looks like Fast Track's tube is down today. So folks, Fast Track's tube is down. Probably an update that's going on back on EV Mux. EV Mux is the one that does that. So it looks like that's probably down. So we'll just terminate it because it's not working. So let's see here. If I terminate it over here. Yeah, I went on and terminated it. Yeah, so it looks like Fast Track's tube. At least the live show is not working this morning. We'll send a note out to EV Mux and let them know that that's not working today. They'll figure it out, whatever. So again, sorry, it's not working over on Fast Track's tube, but it is working on all the other platforms to the best of my knowledge. Thanks for letting me know that, so that I could go shut that down. Sorry about that. What's up, Jonathan? Good morning. Glad to have you here. Glad to be here. Let's see here. Let me see if, yeah, and it won't let me restart it. Yeah, it never lets me restart it once it's going. So there's something going on over on EV Mux. So it may be the stream. I might have messed up on the stream key. Who knows? But we'll see. All right, what's next? I don't want to get distracted. Sorry about that. What's up, Peter? Glad to have you here, Peter. What's up, Crypto? What's up? Welcome. Glad to have you here. Let's see. Do you have morning hour on Fast Track's tube? It's not going. It doesn't seem to be running this morning, so something must be being updated, because that's a player that's owned by EV Mux, and we send it through there. So it must not be going today. We'll check it after the show, that type of thing. Let's see here. Where are we at? Let's see here. First, there was Buzz Lightyear. Now we've got Buzz Watt. So, yeah. So you've seen him. We posted him on all kinds of social media, but it is our new mascot. And I had somebody send me an email, literally and also the bouncing is going to be ended after today. We've got separate stuff for this now. We just haven't put it in yet. Somebody said to me, says, why would you create a mascot with an outdated CFL head? I'm like, well, the damn guy wasn't born today. Okay, I'm not promoting him as a damn infant. He was born during the CFL era, and that's why he has a CFL head. You got to read the backstory. Over on Facebook, there's a backstory. Over on our blog, there's a backstory to where he came from. Dude, you can't. People don't create things and not create backstories. You got to go read how he was born, how he was just a lonely EMT nipple that basically was a CFL. Then they merged together, and he was lost. And you got to go read the story. I'm not gonna spoil it for you. It's all in fun, right? That type of thing. Give us something to do. Sometimes on a job site, there's different things. We get bored. It's all in fun. But anyway, you got to go watch the backstory. What's up, AB? Abe's barbecue. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you. Red Dog is in the house.
Woo, 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 woo. Big dog.
Welcome. Oh, Jonathan. Congratulations. We got to have some. I can't see my screens, Jonathan, so bear with me here. There you go, Jonathan. Congratulations, my friend. Congratulations. What's up, Terrence from DMV? Also, by the way, I am coming to Dulles, Virginia on October 23rd. I will be teaching a CEU class in Dulles. If you're interested and you're in the area, it'll be continuing education for Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, Delaware, New Jersey, and I don't remember the other one. Anyway, so it's about 5 of them. And it's October 23rd. If you want to find out more about it, just go to IEC Chesapeake. Just search, Google it, IEC Chesapeake. It might be iecchesapeake.com. I don't know. I can't remember. But go check them out. If you're interested, I'm sure the seats will go quickly. But we'll be offering it. So 5 hours for Maryland, 4 hours for North Carolina, 3 hours for Virginia, 5 hours like Delaware, whatever. So it's an evening class, so got to be prepared for that. It's like 2:30 till 7:30 or something like that. It's in the afternoon so that people can work during the day, and then they'll let their apprentices off and things like that, that they can come in the evening so they can get to work early and then get off, because bosses ain't giving nobody a whole paid day. You know how that goes. So anyway, so that's what's set up. So don't ask me for details because I'm not the one that organized it, but it's IEC Chesapeake. If you're looking for continuing education, it's in Dulles, Virginia on October 23rd. That's the best I can tell you. All right. I'm not getting paid. I'm doing it as a support for Prismium and Encore Wire. So again, it's just part of what I do. What's up, Elijah? Glad to have you here. Joseph, good morning. Hurricane season time. Oh, God, don't say that, but it is. I see it out there in the ocean. What's up, Angel? Good morning. Glad to have you here. Let's see here. I guess I need to order another wallet with Buzz. Yeah, you're getting quite a collection, Manny. Yeah, you're getting quite a collection, but that's the newest. That's the newest one. Let's see. What's up, AJ? Good morning, Concrete Jungle. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Let's see. Adam says, nope, it's working. Nope, it's not working. Well, it's not going to work now because I killed it. It's because I didn't want it to mess up the stream. Something was not right with it, so I went on and killed it. What's up, Charles? Glad to have you here. And all those that are tuning in, yes, Fast Tracks Tube, the live stream is down. The video is working, but the live stream is down. That type of thing. Also, somebody sent me an image and says that the videos weren't loading. Anytime a video doesn't load on Fast Tracks Tube, check the browser, try a different browser. It does sometimes. iPhones, the browser that's built into it, does not like protections and scripts and all that. So sometimes it's the iPhone that's doing it because, again, the iPhone architecture does not like a lot of websites. So always remember, if you have an iPhone, keep another browser like a Chrome browser or Firefox or something else on there. So that, again, if you're ever trying something, that's a tip for you. If you're ever trying something with the built-in Safari browser and it doesn't work, it's usually because of their built-in protections. Try a different browser, that type of thing. Okay. And you have to be able to accept things like cookies and JavaScripts and all that stuff. So when people contact me and say the video is not playing, and I look at them and I go, try a different browser and you might have your protections. I can't control that. All I can do is go look and see if the video is playing. We have a bunch of different phones in the office. We have an iPhone. And you know what? We just can test it ourselves. That's all we can do. There's literally nothing I can do on the back end. If you have a video that's not loading, it is always going to be on that end, because here on our end, I mean, I shouldn't say always. We could have a broken link to one of our video storage things. But when we check it and it's working, then that means it's on your end for some reason. Try different browsers, clear your cache, all that kind of stuff. It's just like anything. It's the nature of video. Let's see here. Good morning, Charles. Some people have too much time. I have people that work, that help with me, but I can tell you right now, we created Buzz Watts in less than 5 minutes. So again, it's not a matter of time; it's a matter of how you utilize your time and the technology. Okay, I get more stuff done than most people in a day because I utilize technology to do what I need to do, and I know how to use it. Okay, that type of thing. So, but I'm not out in the field. We're in the office. We're constantly creating products, courses, videos, training. That's all we do. I have no desire to ever go back out in the field, ever, ever, ever. What's up, Leo? Glad to have you here. What's up, David? Glad to have you here. What's up, Sven? Glad to have you here, Sven. Welcome to the show. And he did say my name right, Paul. There you go. Love it. All right, Angel. Good morning. I'm doing good, my friend. I cannot complain. All right, let's get into today's topic. I have a treat for you. We are going to be looking at some internal training documents, that stuff that I do when I'm training people for non-metallic sheath cable. So it's not a very technical one. It's very basic. But we'll also look at the NEC. But this is kind of some of the stuff that you'll see if I were to do some training for you from Encore Wire and Prismium. So that makes it kind of neat for you to see some of the stuff that we do internally, that type of thing. Okay. Good morning. Welcome, David. All right. So this is what we got here. Okay. So we're going to be talking, it's not very technical. It's not, non-metallic sheath cable is a product that is not real technical. Okay. You use it. What's up, Thomas? Glad to have you here. It's a product most of you residential guys use every day. It's some of you commercial guys say, oh, I'd never use that stuff. Yeah, well, you know what? It's all electrical, right? At the end of the day, it is all electrical. Let me move my coffee real quick. Okay. Also, really quickly, I will show you that we are going to be we are at Article 334. Right, so we'll be talking non-metallic sheath cable. So before we get into the presentation, let's make sure we understand the scope of what we're talking about today. Non-metallic sheath cable, many refer to it as a trade slang in the industry as Romex. That is a brand that's produced by Southwire. There are many manufacturers that produce non-metallic sheath cable. And so I believe that, obviously, I'm biased, that I believe that Encore Wire and Prismium makes the best. But at the end of the day, they're all made pretty much the same. They all have to meet the same UL standard, UL 719. They all have to be tested. They all have to be evaluated. They all have to have the same core inners, conductors, right? THHN equivalent, or THW, or excuse me, TW. So at the end of the day, we all pretty much manufacture them about the same way. I guess the biggest difference between companies is maybe instead of the product itself is the customer service aspect of it. And everybody's got their own flavor. They feel this one's better than this one. But at the end of the day, they're all serving the same need. They all can be damaged the same way. They all have to follow the same rules under Article 334 of the National Electrical Code, right? So all of you electricians that are out there installing it and thinking, I don't need to worry about code, or you got apprentices or helpers underneath you, and they're like, I'm just cable jockeys, right? I'm just pulling it, boom, blah, 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 blah. There's a reason that you do it the way you do. There's a reason you secure it. There's a reason you support it. There's a reason you do all the other stuff. All right. It's because of the codes. What's up, Leo? My invention is a hybrid SE cable and tray cable. It's called the hybrid cable. And you can find it over on encorewire.com. It's just called the hybrid cable. Okay. It takes the best of SCR and the best of tray cable and combines them together in a product that you can run in a building and then run out of the building, and you can drop it right into the earth and then back up into another building. Of course, you got to have your disconnects and all your other stuff. But again, it's an easy transition product. Again, exclusively from Encore Wire and Prismium. Don't try to buy it anywhere else because you won't. So if they don't carry our products, then you're not going to find our hybrid cable. And even then, it's not the cheapest in the world, because it's not something that's just mass produced. Okay. We don't produce a massive amount of it. But if you keep asking for it and you keep contacting your supplier, keep asking for that hybrid cable. Again, I don't make a dime on it. I get a salary. So people say, well, sure, you're going to promote it. You make money on it. No, I get the same salary whether you buy the hybrid cable or not. All right. So anyway, here you go. Scope. This article covers the use, installation, and construction specifications. So there's 3 parts like always in this case. And we're talking about non-metallic sheath cable. 2 types of non-metallic sheath cable. There's NM, and we refer to that as NMB, and I'll explain the B. And then we have what's called NMC. I don't know of any manufacturer that makes the NMC today, because we're not going to go through making that corrosive protective version when we're going to just send you to UFB, which is going to can be used in a building just like NM, right? It's just that we're not going to go through the trouble to make an NMC because it just won't sell. People will be buying UF because they can use it in a broader application. So, but they're still there, NM and then NMC, all there. Now you remember there used to be an NMS, okay? Well, the NMS went away. It's not in 334 anymore, because it's still NM cable, but it's that new product that we came out with called NMPCS, which is built off of another patent of mine, which is the MCPCS, which is the power conductors with 0 to 10 voltage control and signal cables in the same cable assembly. All we did was take the MC and create a non-metallic sheath product just like that. Okay, that type of thing. Okay. Anyway. Yes, I have a lot of patents. Do I make any money off these patents? Absolutely not. But a lot of people have patents. We just make it because of the company we work for. It doesn't mean we get the rights to them. Don't mean we get paid for them. That type of thing. So anyway. All right. 334 listing. NM and NMC cables and associated fittings shall be listed. Of course they shall be. So any type of fitting you're going to be using with non-metallic sheath cable needs to be listed. It could be incorporated in a box. It could be a separate fitting. But if it's incorporated in a box, then that box is evaluated. That's the type of fitting. It's built into it, designed. And of course, you have single gang nail-ups, for example, which have no connectors on it. And the cable just comes through an opening in the box. And that is permitted as well, okay, in certain applications, right? All right, so let's go on and look real quick and talk about the construction, because that's the code. We can look at the uses permitted, uses not permitted. But let's learn a little bit more about the product, okay? What is non-metallic sheath cable? All right, so on my technical scale of difficulty, this is normal, basic technical knowledge, so nothing too overly complicated here. So this is your non-metallic sheath cable, obviously an extruded sheathing. You have a paper wrap. A lot of people ask about this paper, jute, flame retardant paper. They ask, what is the point? Can you make it without it? Well, you can. That's why you got UF cable. It's essentially the same thing without the paper. And basically, those conductors are engulfed in all of the extruded material. Here, this creates a jacket that's easy to strip. And this paper keeps it from sinking down into the interstices, the little grooves. Okay? And if it did, it would make it much harder to strip. So it makes it, this paper in the construction here, part of UL 719, makes it a little easier to be able to strip off the sheathing, okay? So this product has the markings along its body. These conductors inside of it do not have to be marked, okay? A lot of people get confused about that. They do not have to be marked. Could they be marked? Yes. Do they have to be marked? Absolutely not. And so that means that if you were to strip this sheathing off and you have these single conductors that have no markings on them, you could not use them to pull in a raceway. Now, whether you use small pieces to make joints and pigtails and what like that, that's fine. Okay. But you can't pull it as a wiring method or a conductor inside of raceways without the markings on it. So again, we don't have to put markings on it. And people say, well, why don't you just put the damn markings on it? And because it costs money. That ink is expensive. And the amount of millions and millions and millions of feet that we run, it adds up to quite a bit of money. So, anywhere that a manufacturer can cut stuff that you don't need, it's irrelevant. Just that's because you may have a little unique use that you want to use. It's irrelevant to the manufacturer, right? We don't want to waste money and we want to be good stewards of your money. So if it's not required to put it on there, then we don't put it on there. Okay. All right. So it can be used in residential. Obviously, it can be used in commercial applications. You can run it through metal studs as long as you have the grommets. So again, I've seen one-story commercial buildings. It's constructed of wood framing, and people ask, "Can I use non-metallic sheet?" Well, if you could typically use wood framing, then you could typically use non-metallic sheath cable. Shouldn't have too much of a problem with that. What's up, Petey? Again, always check with your local AHJ, but that is just the general consensus here that, commercial or residential is a very popular wiring method. Interesting story. NM cable was invented by Rome Electric Company in 1922. It was first described and listed by the NEC in 1926. I don't know if you knew that, but it did not become prevalent until the early 1960s when plastic replaced the woven rayon as material used for the outer sheathing. So it evolved. So the earlier days of the cloth and the woven type of jacketing and things like that kind of made its way to the advent of plastics and the thermal extrusion process. And so that's when you saw a sudden insurgence in the early 60s. But believe it or not, it's been around since 1926. It was actually UL listed in the first edition of UL 719 in April of 1927. So everybody out there that says, well, how long has non-metallic sheath cable been around? It's been around a long time, maybe not in its plastic form of sheathing, but it has been around a long time, and I'm sure you folks have seen it in your homes. Now, you also remember that in the early days, it probably, it didn't have an equipment ground in there. So it has evolved, and then it came out with a smaller equipment ground because they did not understand the importance of grounding and clearing overcurrent protected devices and bonding and all this stuff. So eventually, the conductor for the equipment ground got larger and larger, thanks to Augustus Soares and all of those fine founders that helped understand the principles of clearing an overcurrent protected device. I'm sure manufacturers as well. And so that's where we get to the minimum size of equipment grounds that we're required to have today. But that got incorporated into the product, and then you start seeing the equipment ground. I'm sure you guys are going to run into older homes that has non-metallic sheath cable with no equipment ground. If it was compliant at the time it was installed, it's still compliant. It can stay, right? But things have changed, and we understand the principles of the safety circuit, which is the equipment ground. Okay. All right. All right. So how is non-metallic sheath cable made? How do we make it? Step one, copper rod is created by Encore Wire's vertical furnace. So for us, we take cathode and we take the recycled copper. Okay. It's got to be of a high purity already. Okay. For example, I can just speak about our facility. We don't take tinned copper, and it's important to keep that out because it can taint the whole furnace and cause everything to break down. So we are really careful about the copper that we put in there to give it recycled copper as well. But we have a lot of cathode, and all manufacturers do that. So they bring in these sheets of copper sheets. They put it in a furnace, and as it's dropped into the furnace, it melts on the way down until it finally gets to a molten liquid at the bottom, and then it comes out. So first step is that it's a copper rod is created by dropping cathode and recycled copper into the furnace. It comes down, and it comes out of the actual furnace, and it gets compressed into rod form. Right? That copper rod is then taken over and loaded, just this rod, 5/8 inch rod. It's taken over and loaded into what's called wire drawing machines. And that's the old Brown and Sharp. It uses little dies in there that runs the wire back and forth and slowly stretches it, okay, into the different diameters that we're working with, whether it's 14 gauge through 2 gauge copper, okay, or 12 through 8 aluminum. It draws it out to the required size, okay, and then it's put on reels as bare, okay. Now, when it's being used for things like THHN, THWN-2, etc., then it is put onto a machine and is extruded and run. So the bare copper is run through this machine and it takes it through. Okay, you'll have an extruder, and it'll bare conductor will run through the extruder, and the pressure of the pelletized material, like PVC or whatnot, is pressed through this extrusion onto the actual wire. So it goes in a bare wire, and on the other side, it comes out with this certain specific thickness of sheathing, insulation on it. Okay. And that can be black, red, blue, whatever we want to put on it. Okay. And it's extruded. Then it's kept in big reels of these insulated conductors. Okay. Right. And then when it's time to make a piece of non-metallic sheath cable, what they do is they go to a machine and they take it and they set a big reel of the white, a big reel of the black, and a big reel of the bare, already in the sizes needed. So the black and white, for example, is already insulated. And then you have the bare, and it feeds this into a machine. And the machine positions it as it feeds it and then wraps the paper around it all in one process. And then once the paper is wrapped around it, as you can see right here, once they wrap this paper around the equipment ground, and then it wraps it around the entire assembly, then what happens is it goes to another extruder. And in that extruder is what puts on this sheathing right here. Right? All right. So it's all a process. So it starts out with the rod. Then it goes, then it goes and takes the individual conductors and insulates them. Then it puts them on big master reels. And then it takes the reels and puts it at a different machine, which is now going to be feeding with 3 separate conductors in this case, a black, the white, and the bare. In that feeding process, the white conductor will have, the bare conductor will have the paper jute wrapped around it, and then it'll take it and another wrap goes around the entire assembly. And then it goes into the extruder, and that's what this outer sheathing is put on. All this is controlled by very expensive machines. I say this, and I've told this people before, and now I'm not in the plant anymore. I'm not back in McKinney. There were people that we brought in that got to see tours, and I believe if you ever get an opportunity to see the making of it, being in the wiring cable business, to see the magic happen between when you take cathode and turn it into a final product, you may say, who cares? But as an electrician, I did. I enjoyed it. I brought my brother in. He got to see the entire process. He thought it was amazing. I call it the Disneyland or the Disney World of wiring cable. No other campus is like Encore Wire and Prismium. I know South. I know all these other facilities. They're spread out all over the country. There is nothing, and I'm not just saying because I work there. I was with NEMA. I have knowledge of all facilities. I'm just telling you, the campus in McKinney, Texas is like the Disney World of wiring cable. And it's even getting bigger because now they're going to be making medium voltages there and all kinds. If you ever get a chance to take a tour, or if you buy a lot of wire and you have a local rep, one of our local reps, and you ever get a chance to get a tour of that facility, and then when I was there, you could come and contact me. I'd take you on a personal tour. I'm not there anymore. So at the facility, but it is amazing. Okay. It's hard to describe what goes on, and you can literally eat off the floors in the entire facility. That's how neat they keep it there. Just amazing. And they're growing like it's the largest wiring cable manufacturer in the world now. Prismium acquired Encore Wire. So they're all under one envelope. So it's just amazing. All right. So various components. Here you see the sheathing, right? White, yellow, orange. That is not a code requirement. And now you see other colors like pinks, blues, and purples and all that stuff. That's just to tell you the number of conductors inside of it and the size of the conductors. There is no color coding standard in the National Electrical Code when it comes to the sheathing colors We at Encore, we've been making colored sheathing for decades. We made some blue for the Mavericks. We used to make pink sheathing for the Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So this is nothing new. So just because you see these other colors, people say, is that a requirement in the code? No, it's not. It is just something that the manufacturer started. By the way, you might not know this, but a man named Vince Rigo actually is the first person to do that. And he was the original founder of Encore Wire. He was the first person to create the colored sheathing as well as colored insulation on conductors. He was the first guy to do that, as legend says. And again, didn't patent it, didn't try to patent it, didn't push anybody to try to make it a code requirement or any kind of colorization, any of that type of stuff. Didn't push any of that. So again, everybody gets the fruits of his labor. He was an amazing man. I never got to meet him. He died before I came to Encore Wire. But he was a pioneer in this type of stuff. But as you can see, this is the sheathing, various color. Now, the reason that they initially started the color was for identification, the ease of identifying it. For example, if I'm doing a kitchen and I look and I see yellow, then I know that that's going to be 12 gauge conductors in there, and I'm required to have a minimum of 2 small appliance branch circuits in the kitchen, right? So at the end of the day, that makes it easier for the inspector to look at things. Now, another question that people ask, they say, well, Paul, I got an old reel of 12-2 that doesn't have the yellow sheathing on it, and it's just been in my house. I've had it for years. Can I still use it? Absolutely, you can. Okay, it doesn't expire. Your UL listing on it doesn't expire. Still 719. Nothing changed. You still can use it. That type of thing. Okay. All right. Let's see here. So this is a moisture-resistant paper that we use. It's not your normal craft paper. These are your insulated conductors. This is your bare. This is the bare solid is in accordance with ASTM B3. Of course, this is PVC insulation on here. Okay, that type of thing. Okay, so the NM cable is required to comply with the flame tests. It's got to meet 1581. It's got to meet 1685. It's got to meet VW. All the little flame tests that are out there that we can install it. Now, here's a little something. You can't put non-metallic sheet cable in a cable tray unless, people say, why would I want to do that? Well, there's large homes that have cable trays in the large residential applications. I've seen it, been involved in it. Okay. Hold on for a second. I'm going to lose TikTok here. So I've seen it. And so you got to be careful because you can't put non-metallic sheet cable in a cable tray unless it has marked on the side for CT use. Okay. So not all non-metallic sheet cables have that marking on the side. So just got to check your markings to see whether or not you can do it if you want to put it in a cable tray. But again, 392 allows it. .10, there's allowance for non-metallic sheet cable to be in there, but it's got to be marked for it. And that also goes the same for things like SE cable. People think, can I just put SE cable? They do multifamily, commercial buildings, or a multifamily where the core of the building is commercial, but the residential units, and they want to use SER, and they want to do it in cable trays. Be careful, not all SER can be installed in a cable tray. Now, that doesn't mean it can't be on trapeze, doesn't mean it can't be on other types of supporting mechanisms, just can't be in a cable tray unless it's marked for such. That's all. Now, one of the key differences is that between NM cable and NMC is obviously the NMC has to have a fungi or whatever you want to say it, and corrosive protection inherently built into it. Okay. And it is not built into normal NM cable. It is built into NMC, but you're not going to find NMC. So what alternative are you going to be looking for? You're going to be looking for UF, underground feeder. And we probably are going to do that wiring method here in this series. Hey, Slade, thank you. Appreciate you. Because again, it's just basically non-metallic sheath cable without the paper, a total extrusion, and you can use it in wet locations, damp locations where you can't use NM cable in those locations. Okay, so again, it's probably, what's up, Samantha? Glad to have you here. Okay, that type of thing. Okay. All right. So tech tip: most manufacturers produce UF again to take the place of NMC. Okay. What conductor insulation can be used for non-metallic sheet cable? Here's a big question that people ask me. Well, for type NM or NMC cables, it says the insulation material shall be dry location PVC that complies with the requirements of type THHN insulation without any surface markings of the ampacity or temperature rating. The surface markings -B or -B is optional on the insulation. Okay, so all of this is optional. Okay. And it's also optional, which most people put it anyway on the actual sheathing. But the -B, believe it or not, is, as you see tech tip down here, and I know this is too small for you to see. That -B, when you see that, that's just the signature that the conductor's insulation that is inside of that cable, non-metallic sheet cable, is rated 90 degrees. So that means that that insulation is 90. So it is equivalent temperature rating as a THHN in a dry location. Why is that important? Well, that's so important because the National Electrical Code under 334.80 allows me to do an adjustment and correction based on the 90 degree, even though it's non-metallic sheet cable. I can use the ampacity in table 310.16 for adjustment and corrective purposes only, okay? As long as at the end of the day, after I do those adjustment and corrections, I don't try to use that conductor for an ampacity that's greater than that of the 60-degree column. Okay. So really all we're doing is making sure that we still have a conductor that can handle the load and we're not overloading it and that we're not exceeding the 60 degree. So that's why we're using the 90. Other than that, you're going to be limited to the 60 degree with non-metallic sheet cable. That's an important statement because I see a lot of videos on social media where people are using non-metallic sheet cable for applications like EV chargers, and it's a great product and you can use it for many, many things. I know that we use it for a generator inlet all the time. Just be careful because you are limited to the 60. Even though we can adjust and correct from the 90, all we're doing is saying, look, 60 goes to here, 90's here. Now, since I'm using this cable in a location that's going to have an ambient temperature or more than 3 current, or I'm bundling, after I do the math at the higher ampacity, the ampacity of that conductor will start to drop. And now if it's right here after all that, then it's still good for the 60. That's what we have to focus on. All we did here was to make sure that we weren't going to screw that conductor, screw that installation. Okay? That's all that adjustment and correction is about. And if that's confusing for you, make sure you go over to Fast Track's Tube and watch our derating demystified video to fully grasp the understanding, because that's probably the number one thing that people confuse in the code is what's an ampacity of conductor. And I know it sounds simple. The moment you think you know, you'll run into something, you'll go, well, do I know really? But just remember that there are many of them that we do adjustment and corrections based on the ampacity of the conductors, based on the temperature rating of the conductor, environment that it's going to be in, condition of use, all that type of stuff. But ultimately, we can't exceed the limitations in 110.14. Okay, we still have those limitations, 60, 75, or 90, depending on the application and the termination. Okay. All right. Anyway, so let's see here. So here's what it says in the actual UL standard. Kind of a treat. You get to see exactly, if you had those questions about how it can be made, here's what it says right here. And I'll read it, so in case it's hard to see. It says type NM only. It says type NM is eligible to use a thermoplastic insulating material other than PVC if you want. The performance and ratings of the material as insulation shall be determined by investigation and shall be electrically comparable to the PVC insulation in type THHN wire. So it's got to be comparable. So it gives manufacturers a little flexibility with their pelletization or the material they use, but it's got to pass and be equivalent to the PVC insulation of a normal THHN, which T stands for thermoplastic. The two H's stands for high heat. That means 90. If you see one H at 75, you see no H at 60. And of course, the N stands for the nylon. Okay. Or the other option, it says mechanically comparable to the nylon or similar jacketed PVC insulation of type THHN wire. And 3, in accordance with the physical properties of insulation of thermoplastic other than PVC from type NM cables, table UL 1581. So in the standard, all you need to remember about and you really don't need to remember these things, the manufacturers of non-metallic sheet cable that you buy, provided you buy them from a U.S. born company or somebody that makes it here in the U.S., that really follows the rules, let's say, of the ANSI UL standard, that we can pretty much guarantee when a manufacturer that makes it here to the UL 719 is going to follow these standards, means that they've looked at it and you're making sure that that conductor in it. But some people think that the insulated conductors inside of an M cable are always THHN. No, they may be equivalent to THHN. And if they don't have the markings on it, you can't strip it out and use it as THHN. Probably the biggest takeaway, right? So now I know there's people out there that says, "Oh, Paul, it works fine. Suck it up. It's fine." But I mean, it is what it is. Okay. All right, so there you go. All different types and parallels. So here's an example of 14.3, 12.3, 10.3, 8.3. Here you see all conductors in here, right? This is an example of 14.2, 12.2, 10.2, 8.2. Get two conductors running parallel. Typically, what you've got in this type of scenario where 14.3, 12.3 is the conductors are plexed. Although today, most of the manufacturers are making now a flat or elliptical version that looks like this, but has the four conductors in it, and it will be pink or blue or whatnot. So again, don't remember that color coding is only there to try to condition you to be able to look and see what it is at a glance. It doesn't mean anything else than that. It's not any safety standard. It's not anything like that. And people say, well, that can be confusing. It can be, but the effort is that it's supposed to eventually make it easier to identify things. Okay. Now, the number of conductors, at least two, but not more than four circuit conductors can be. So if you ever wondered, how many conductors can I get in a non-metallic sheath cable? Well, typically on an NM cable, it's got to have at least two, but not more than four circuit conductors. That's circuit conductors, okay? So a red, a blue, a black, and a white, for example, are circuit conductors. An equipment ground is not a circuit conductor, okay? So it can have that as well in there. So overall, you can end up with 5 conductors overall, but you can only have 4 circuit conductors in there maximum, okay? We have a question says, well, what would the cost difference be to wrap NM cable with TN? I don't know, but it's a sheer numbers. Now, in that scenario, it wouldn't change the use because we'd have to change the standard. That's another question that people ask. They say, well, Paul, if y'all just all of a sudden start putting THHN conductors with the marking on it inside of non-metallic sheath cable, can we use it in a wet location? The answer is no. Could you use it in a damp location? The answer is no, because typical THHN is also rated THWN-2. But because of the way the standard is written, it would still be THHN, so it couldn't be in a wet or damp location anyway. Now, regular THHN can be in a damp. That's a whole nother story, and that's another episode we're going to be talking about the different conductors and how to understand 310.4 and the use groups of conductors. Okay, we're going to be talking about that in the future. But at the end of the day, it wouldn't change the use because of the way 334 is written and the way 719 is written. But the cost factor is ink, and it all becomes cumulative. And you might say ink cannot cost that much. The type of inks that's used in the cable industry that has to be durable and all that kind of stuff can increase the costs. And again, any manufacturer, I can tell you, for example, let me give you an example. Anti-short bushings. And we're a multi-billion-dollar company, okay? Prismium is like a $16, $17 billion company. So we do not want to give you anti-short bushings, okay? I'm not aware of any, JC. It's all limited to 60, that type of thing. Now, again, it's all 90. It's higher than, it's 90, rated 90 for adjustment and corrective purposes, but you're limited to 60. So the conductors are 90, so they are greater than 75, but I'm not aware of any as an overall assembly that would be rated for 75. Because of the limitations in the code, it would be a waste for us to do something like that. The way the current code is written, that type of thing. And the intended use of NM cables, typically the intended use is in walls and thermal insulation and areas where there's a lot of heat buildup. So we like to keep the amps lower, right? And the same reason that SC cable, when you have 10 gauge and smaller, is going to force you to install it like 60. Remember, we talked about that when we talked about SC cables, because it's typically going to be installed in the same type of locations that NM cable will be installed. And we're worried about heat buildup and what it can do to the insulation if it gets past that volatile 90 degrees C rating, which is due to current flow and ambient temperature. So we're kind of building in a protection for use of our products. That's kind of what the manufacturers have done, trying to pre-safe it for you folks out there that are installing it. That's the concept of it. Now, things could change, but that's the way it is right now, that type of scenario. And I was talking on something, and I think I got off topic. So if anybody wants to remind me, they can remind me. Let's see. Yeah, there's other options, right? So if an installation where it's not going to work because you use the 60, then you have other options. Go to MC cable, things like that. You can go to limited applications for tray cable for 1 and 2 family dwellings under, for that 336 there, things like that. So you got different limitations, and you may have to bump up a size or get a bigger size, that type of thing. Okay. All right, let's get back to the lesson because I'm running out of time. All right, where can we install non-metallic sheet cable? Obviously through framing members, and obviously if you can install it in metal framing members. Okay, that type of thing. So at the end of the day, yeah, SCR is expensive, but the aluminum, there's always an option for the aluminum version as well, which can bring the cost down, and aluminum does just as fine. Carries the amps, carries the current flow, terminate it properly, just as good. Okay. Sorry, I was talking about anti-short bushings. I'm sorry. Thank you for doing that, because that was a good point. So anti-short bushings, that's why I love you folks. You keep me on track here. The anti-short bushings, I told Encore Wire Prismium to stop providing them for the smaller MC products back a couple years ago when it was just Encore Wire. I said, look, and it saved us $100,000. Yes, those little amount of wire, $100,000 a year. And people say, well, what's $100,000 for a billion-dollar company? Well, it may be the salary of one employee. So again, that's the kind of micromanagement that you have to do in a big corporation like that, especially when you're publicly traded. So again, that's just one thing. We had a lot of initiatives where we were trying to reduce costs. They're not required for MC cables, so why provide them for MC cable? Now, the reason that we gave you the anti-short bushings, and we talk about that in our MC cable episode, the reason we give you the anti-short bushings is because we're fairly sure that 90% of the people out there don't have any clue that they're not required for MC, but they are required for AC cable. So we'll give you some. Whereas AC cable, we're required to give you a little bag of 35 of them for every 250-foot coil. We have to give you 35 of them as part of the standard UL4. We don't have to do that for MC cable. We ain't got to give you any. So if you do get some, don't think it's part of a listing. Don't think it's part of manufacturer's instructions. If you get some MC cable with some anti-short bushings, consider it a courtesy from the manufacturer, because it's certainly not required. Okay. And I've talked about that so many times. It's incredible. All right. But you do you. If you want to use them, go ahead. But the MC fitting should make it moot. You can't damage the conductor. People say, well, I've seen it damage it. Well, then you're doing something wrong, because it shouldn't. All right. So there you go. Bore through holes. If you're going to go, now this has to be a full grommet. Used to be years ago, it was a half grommet and laid in there. Full grommet. Okay. All right. Where can we install non-metallic sheet cable? Use is permitted. Okay. So 1 family dwellings, 2 family dwellings. 2 family can be either over and under, or it can be a duplex style side by side. So where does it say? We get use is permitted 334.10. And here it says, you can do it in 1 and 2 family dwellings, and their attached or detached garages and their storage buildings. So you can do a shed out back. Yes, you can use non-metallic sheet cable in there. Again, protected against physical damage, obviously. Multi-family buildings permitted to be where it's permitted in type 3, 4, or 5 construction. So can I install in a multi-complex? All right. So what is type 3, 4, 5 construction? Well, I don't know if you knew this, but in your code book, you do have an informative annex. And in that informative annex, it gives you a kind of an idea or understanding, right, of the fact that, okay, what is the different type of constructions and their limitation of construction? Basically, 3, 4, and 5 are wood construction. So the height is going to be limited to the number of stories. Okay, so you see down here the different stories. This is in the back of your code book. Okay, now, if you're coming up on a multifamily building and it's a commercial building, so the main common area is commercial. Okay, so you got to follow the commercial codes, still the NEC, but as far as builders and things like that, they like the IBC stuff. And then of course the individual units were covered under the International Residential Code if you're an ICC folk. And then if you're an electrician, you're thinking, okay, can I use non-metallic sheet cable in a multifamily building? Well, if it's under 5 stories typically, or it's all wood construction, unless there's some kind of local ordinance, nothing would prohibit you from using a non-metallic sheet cable product. And we see it all the time. I saw it out in Texas, 4 and 5 story buildings, 4-story buildings, all wood. If it's good enough to be in the type 3, 4, or 5 wood construction, okay, we're not talking type 1 and type 2, which is concrete and steel. 3, 4, and 5. If that's the type of construction, then I can use non-metallic sheet cable unless they tell me otherwise. Okay. Now, can I have it in other structures that are not? And I know this is hard to see, guys, so I'll blow it up a little bit. Can I use it in other structures that aren't multifamily buildings, like commercial buildings? Absolutely, you can use non-metallic sheet cable in those if it's still being constructed of type 3, 4, 5 constructions. Then it can be concealed within the walls as long as those walls have a rating of at least 15-minute fire rating. And typical sheetrock or gypsum will give you that. So again, if the building is being built with wood, okay. Now I remember back in the day, I wired some buildings that were 1-level, 1-story buildings. They were commercial buildings, and they were non-metallic in nature. We used non-metallic sheet cable because it was the easiest to run. People say, well, that's commercial. I would never use it. Dude, the conductors don't know any different. Whether you put them in a raceway or you put them in an MC, the conductors don't know any different. As long as you protect it from physical damage, you're putting it in the wall. What's the difference? You put it in a residence that you're sleeping at night. Who gives a crap it's in a commercial building as long as it meets the construction codes? If it's wood members, then it's perfectly fine. If it's not a dwelling unit, and it's some other type of structure, and it's wood framing, whether it's heavy timber, whether it's normal conventional constructed wood, then you're okay in those buildings, even if they're a commercial building or light commercial, as long as the cable assemblies are behind the walls that have a 15-minute finish rating. And again, most gypsum will, that type of thing. Make sense? All right. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page. All right. There's some informational notes here that give you places that you can go. Okay, so types of building construction, occupancy classes are defined in NFPA 220 standard on the types of building constructions. Okay, so you can go there as well. This is also, again, a snippet from what's in the NEC back in informative annexes. I can't remember whether that is J or I, or I can't remember which one that is back there. Oh, E. I'm sorry. It's informative annex E is where you can go see the different types of construction and the number of floors and minimum. Okay. But to truly learn these type of constructions, again, type 3, 4, and 5, you want to go and look at NFPA 220. It's probably going to give you a better understanding. But let me put it this way. If it's wood construction, it's going to be limited in height. If it's limited in height, then you have a probability of saying, okay, is this a multifamily building? If so, then you're like, okay, then I should be able to use non-metallic sheath cable unless the AHJ or something says differently. Again, might behoove you to make sure you check because, again, it's going to be cheaper for you in the long run to install non-metallic sheath cable if you have the option. And maybe you don't want to do that. That's fine too. It's up to you. So where can we install non-metallic sheath cable? Well, NM and NFC are permitted for use in the following. Okay, and you've got some areas. Let's see. All of these areas is where it's permitted to use. We'll go to the code real quick to show you the actual list. And I'll just pull me up here. So here's your use. We just covered these 3 right here, right in the code. Okay. But that's not all. Again, there's other uses permitted that you can install it. In cable trays, right? In structures permitted to be 3, 4, and 5. So if it's wood construction, and remember I told you I saw some mega homes, some multi-million-dollar homes that actually utilize the cable tray system, right? In those wood frame homes. But it also could be cable tray system in a other structure that's not dwelling, a commercial, if it's wood construction. you could use non-metallic sheet cable in those cable trays in type 3, 4, 5 construction. Again, that's how it's constructed, whether it's wood construction of heavy timber or conventional, then you could use it. But here's the caveat. It has to be identified for the use. So again, that means that you have to have a marking typically on the sheathing of a non-metallic sheet cable that'll say for CT use. If you don't see that marking, then it's not for use in a cable tray. Okay. Next one is type 2 and 1 and 2 construction installed within raceways permitted to be installed in the location. So people ask me all the time, they say, can I put non-metallic sheet cable in a raceway? Absolutely you can. We tell you all the time, 300.15 tells you to protect it against physical damage. Okay. Gets done all the time, right? Exposed non-metallic sheet cable. If you think it's going to be damaged, sleeve it in some Schedule 80 PVC or whatnot, and it's protected. That type of thing, right? All the time. This one is giving you the specific allowance. And again, I don't know why many people would do this, but if you're in a type 1, type 2 construction and you're using, for example, rigid metal conduit or intermediate metal conduit, which is rated for those environments, could I sleeve or run a piece of NM cable through that raceway? And the answer is yes. In those locations, type 1 and type 2, concrete and steel, I don't know when you would. Maybe you have a scrap, or I don't know when you would, but you are allowed to do that as long as the wiring method that's already installed in that raceway, in that location, like rigid or intermediate, is already rated for that environment. Then you're allowed to run some non-metallic sheet cable. Because at the end of the day, the conductors inside of it are equivalent anyway to THHN, right? So what does it really matter? The sheathing is irrelevant, that type of thing. Keep that in mind. I will remind you, though, when you do install it in raceways, if it's complete from end to end, and this is the same with all cable assemblies, if you do run them in raceways, okay, then what you want to do is you got to remember that you do have to worry about raceway fill. If it's in there just for physical protection, then you don't, Chapter 9, Table 1, Note 2, you don't have to do it. If you are running a cable in a raceway, box to box or cabinet to box, a complete system, if it's a complete system, then you got to worry about the fill requirement. And you take a single cable, you treat it as what? One wire, 53%. If you put 2 NM cables in there, then it is 2 wires, 31%. You put 3 in there, you can fill up to 40%. Okay, so you're treating that cable like a wire. Go to Chapter 9, Table 1, take a gander at Note 9, and you will see how you do all that. And we have videos for that as well over on Fast Tracks too. Look, David says is a well-seasoned rope puller. There you go. All right. All right, let's get back to this one here. Okay, so that's all we were talking about here. And it reminds you to keep in mind of the construction, because you see right here, it can be in cable trays, but it's going to be limited to this type of construction. All right, and here is something I guarantee you can't see. Even if I zoom in on it, you won't be able to see it. But what I do is I go and explain the different types of constructions. This information you can get, again, all of this information you can get out of that UL 220 as well. And I believe it's also in the NEC. And again, that type of thing. So, but that just shows you the different types of construction, okay, and the ratings. Okay. Where we can't install non-metallic sheath cable, 334.12a. Okay, so again, I understand this is kind of really hard to see. So we'll go on over to the NEC and look at where we can't install it. Okay, and we're not going to look at NMC because, again, I told you, again, this has its own restricted use. It shall be, and where it can be installed, both exposed and concealed outside and inside of masonry and block walls and shallow chases of masonry, concrete, and adobe. That is NMC. Most people don't make that anymore, so you're going to go look at UF if you have those needs, okay? All right, use is not permitted. So this is generic. This is not permitted for both NM and NMC, okay? So it's not permitted in dwellings or structures not specifically permitted in 334.10, 1, 2, 3, and 5. So in those dwelling units or structures that were not referenced, okay, that were not referenced previously, they can't be there. So remember, single, one family, two family, multifamily applications, others other than multifamily and structures that were type 3, 4, and 5 construction, those type of applications, you're okay. You can have them in it. Even number 5, okay, which was in what? Number 5 was also in a 1 and 2 type construction, as long as it's inside of a wiring method, it was already rated for that type of construction. So we have some allowances, right? Now, notice that it doesn't say anything about option 4, which is the cable tray, because that's not a location, right? It's kind of it's not specific to the location. Let's see here. What's next? Oh, let's go on over to. Here we go. All right, we're back here. All right, so here we go. So not in this. So exposed within a dropped or suspended ceiling cavity in other than 1 and 2 family and multifamily. So those other structures that are not dwelling units can have it above a suspended ceiling. In a 1 family and 2 family, or in the ceilings of a multifamily, that's in the multifamily, folks, not in the commercial area that may traverse. Okay, that's in the multifamily dwelling unit area. You can have it above a suspended ceiling or drop ceiling. In a 1 and 2 family, you can. It's very common to finish off a basement and put a suspended ceiling. Okay to have non-metallic sheet cable there, not in commercial buildings that are other than those specified here. Okay, so it's very dwelling specific. So again, if you go to a commercial job and you see some non-metallic sheet cable above the common areas in a multifamily building, you're like, that's a no-no. But could it be above the suspended ceiling inside of the individual dwelling unit? Yes. Okay, so that's the importance of understanding that. Obviously, you can't use a service entrance cable. Obviously, the limitation in size is going to prohibit that anyway. Okay. In commercial garages, having hazardous classified locations, not going to have it in commercial garages. You're not going to be using this product. That should be a no-brainer. You're not going to use non-metallic sheath cable in a theater or similar locations except where permitted in 518.4c, and that would be like separate office areas that may be constructed of wood or are made so that they are basically away from the areas where people would gather and things like that. So again, keep that in mind. In motion picture studios, no bueno. Storage battery rooms, not going to do it. Good morning, Marlon. Glad to have you here. In hoistways or on elevator escalators, not going to do it. Some other method, MC cable, something else. Just not going to use non-metallic sheet cable. Embedded in poured concrete, cement, or aggregate. Okay, rock and cinder, mix, fill. Not going to do it. That's not the product to use. You want to go look at the UFB for that. In hazardous classified locations, except where specifically permitted by other articles in this code. All that language is you're not going to do it in hazardous locations except where somewhere in the chapter 5 where it talks about it may give you a specific permission, let's say in an area that is connected to a hazardous location, where now with a number of exchanges of air, it's now taking it from a hazardous location down to a non-hazardous location, and then it may give you some leeway to be able to use that in some of those applications. But the importance of where it says permitted in other articles. So it's going to be say that you're not going to use it in a hazardous classified location unless you go up somewhere else in the code and it says, oh, by the way, we'll let you use this, okay? And that's the importance of understanding the style of the code. Chapters 1 through 4 in the NEC apply generally throughout the NEC. 5, 6, and 7 will modify or supplement anything chapters 1 through 7. Okay, so if something's in chapter 5, 6, or 7, it may modify or supplement a general rule that we read in chapters 1 through 4. And remember, chapter 3 is a wiring method, so it's in chapter 3. It's in that 1 through 4 general requirement, okay? All right, specific to non-metallic sheath cable. Type NM cable shall not be used under the following conditions. Again, we're exposed to corrosive fumes or vapors. That's a no-no. We're embedded in masonry, concrete, adobe, fill, or plaster. Okay, specific to NM cables, which again would be NMB. Okay. In shallow chases of masonry, concrete, or adobe covered with plaster, adobe, or similar finish. No bueno. Use UFB if you want to do that. And then it says in wet and damp locations. You cannot use it in wet and damp locations. So this is the rule where people say, hey, can I put non-metallic sheet cable in a liquid tight outside? Absolutely not. The code tells us very clearly in Article 300 that that's a wet location. All right. So again, that type of scenario. Marlon says, do you teach electrical inspector course? I'm currently studying for the exam. Now, most of the electrical inspector exams are based on the NEC. So we have literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students that are using our normal fast tracks program to study for inspector's exam. They're not going to ask you inspector-driven questions. They're going to ask you questions based on the National Electrical Code because that's what the inspector is doing. So our programs do the exact same thing, prepare you. So again, now, if you're studying for an ICC residential, for example, we teach the NEC for that because you can use the IRC, but it can get confusing. And there's a cross-reference guide in the IRC. So I tell people it's better to learn the NEC because you're still going to be able to take the exam and find your answers by using the questions than worrying about the IRC. So again, I got my E1, E2, and E3. I've since let it expire because I'm not going to do inspections. But I got those years ago. I didn't study the IRC at all or the IBC. I studied the NEC, that type of thing. All right, let's get back, see what the lesson's got to say here because I am over as normal. All right, construction. Okay, we already covered, and we just kind of went over the uses not permitted. Okay. Exposed. Can it be exposed? Absolutely. 334.15 says in exposed work, that means running it, even if you're running it through studs and you see it because you're not putting a covering on it, or if you want to run it along the wall, that type of thing. Here's what the code says. It says in exposed work, except as provided in 300.11b, which again would be above suspended ceiling, for example. It's a cable shall in 1 and 2 family dwellings and dwelling units. It says cable shall be installed as specified in 334.15a through C. Now, A says that if you're going to do it exposed, then you need to follow the surface of the building finish. Or if you can't do that, you need to put it on a running board. So basically, we don't want to run it from framing member to framing member on the surface. Okay. We want to, unless we're going to secure it, we can run it through framing members. It's considered secure and supported. But for example, I give is when you're running it down a wall or block wall and you're running it down, then you want to have it follow the surface and stay as close to the surface as you can. Okay. Now, again, we're all talking exposed rules here. Protection from physical damage. 334.15b says cable shall be provided from protected from physical damage where necessary. All right, listen, by rigid metal, intermediate metal, electrical metallic tubing, which is actually new a cycle ago, I believe, because again, EMT wasn't listed for physical protection until last cycle, I believe, or it might have been the one before that. Schedule 80 PVC. Notice it doesn't say Schedule 40. Notice that, folks out there who are sleeving things for protection, sleeving this in running 40. Notice it doesn't say 40. Type RTRC, overkill. Nobody's going to do that with the suffix XW or other approved means. So other approved means will be whatever the AHJ is okay with. They make stuff that goes over it that protect it or not. Other approved mean doesn't necessarily mean that Schedule 40 will work, but if the AHJ is okay with it, then we will chalk that one up as other approved means. Technically not what it's supposed to be like, right? Because there's a reason. Oh, hold on. There's a reason why we call out Schedule 80, right? For protection. But anyway, there you go. Okay. Now, let's go on. But here's something that other people do not do right here. It says when that NM cable passes through the floor, say coming through the open floor, not up through the band in a wall, but through the open floor, like up into an island in the middle of a room or something like that, up into a cabinet or whatnot. It says we're passing through a floor. The cable shall be enclosed in rigid metal conduit, intermediate metal conduit, electrical metallic tubing, Schedule 80 PVC, type RTRC with the marking XW or other approved means. Check it out, extending at least 6 inches above the floor. So as it comes through the floor, it needs to be sleeved in this protective product as it comes through the floor. Okay. Makes sense? Now, again, we're not talking popping from floor A to floor B up through the floor plate. We're talking about where it just comes up through the floor. It needs to be protected, okay? And of course, type NMC, again, we're not, again, most people it's going to be, you're going to follow the rules of UFB and go over to Article 340. But type NMC, if you can put your hands on it, installed in shallow chases and grooves of masonry, concrete, and adobe, because remember, NM can't be, but NMC can be. It shall be protected in accordance with requirements 300.4F and covered with plaster, adobe, or similar finish. So again, has to maintain separations, got to meet all the rules of 300.4F. If you do, then you can put NMC in a shallow chase of masonry, concrete, or adobe. Okay? That's NMC. That is not your normal NM cable. Remember that. All right, so the rules for NM. So here you go. This right here. NM and NMC shall be protected in accordance with 300.4, where they pass through or parallel to framing members. Okay, so it runs through this board hole. Then we have to maintain spacing 1.25 inches from this edge of the framing member of the board hole to this edge of the framing member, and from this other edge to this side of the framing member. So that means that your board hole in the middle, if you have it to the left or to the right, then you're going to need a nail plate. What if I'm back here and I'm closer to this edge? Then you're going to need a nail plate on this edge. Okay. Now, these are metal studs. This is a full encompass grommet. You need to have the full grommets in place if you're going to be using non-metallic sheet cable and metal studs, and you certainly can. Do you need this grommets for MC cable? You do not. Okay, I get that question last, and not a lot, but no. All right, what if you're too close to the edge? Here you go. This is an example of some nail plate applications. This one right here is too close to the edge right here. Nail plate on this side of the wall over here. And here on this side, there's some nail plates being installed. Okay, all this is covered in 300.4A1. Common issues. Look at this right here. I don't know if you folks can see this. Obviously, this right here is a violation of 312.5C. That's an example where you would use a wire waffle. Okay, but I don't know that even a wire waffle could take all of this. All right. Also, another issue, if this is going through the top plate, I don't see this being fire caulked, okay, or using fire-rated foam or something, or rock wool. It may be there. It may be there. Also, if any of these these drilled holes over here were within 1.25 inches of this top inside part of this plate or the backside, then you would have to have nail plates across here, okay? Keep that in mind. Now, obviously, all of these are secured within 12 inches, but the problem right here is bringing them all through a TA. No bueno, okay? Here, right here, obviously, let me zoom into this. Even though you may have put a nail plate on this, just be aware that you could drill the most perfect hole in the world, okay? Remember this. You could do the most perfect hole in the world, but the reality is you cannot control what the siding people use. So even in this scenario right here, it would not have saved this NM. So you can be the best installer in the world. Somebody can still screw up your day. Okay. This was due to an investigation that found this issue right here. It was clearing an arc fault. And again, there's the reason right there. Okay. Just saying. And you see the heat build up because it's starting to melt the sheathing. That type of thing. Right? And this was probably 1.25 inches from the edge of the framing member, and it's still. So, can we fix everything with nail plates? No. But can we prevent a lot of them? Yes. And that's about all we can do. As an electrician, that is all we can do, is stay in the middle of the framing member, stay in the middle of the board hole, in the middle of the stud, use nail plates when we have it, because again, you might say, why the hell is that inspector calling out a nail plate? I'm going to be honest with you. I believe that they're actually doing you a solid, because last thing I want to risk is a damaged cable somewhere in a wall that I have no idea where it's at, and I got to come back and try to troubleshoot it. Dude, put the freaking nail plates in, okay? What as Francis says, I have inspection running Romex or non-metallic sheet cable on flexible pipe for condenser units. Inspector says no Romex on pipes assembly. Well, you can't run non-metallic sheath cable or Romex anywhere outdoors in a raceway. But nothing says I can't sleeve it or run it inside of a building. And if an inspector says it can't be in a raceway at all, then that inspector doesn't know what he's talking about. And it's up to you whether you want to fight with him and educate him or just say whatever. But he's uneducated. He doesn't understand that type of thing. All right, now bending. Y'all have heard me talk about it. This is a good example of you've always heard me. I can hear Manny now. Remember, circumference, diameter, and radius, right? That's our new hand signal. I'm going to see y'all at NECA. Somebody's going to come up to me and go, you know how they do Spock, long and prosper. I have somebody come up and go, But anyway, this is the kind of concept, the bending radius and how it works. Okay, so you can damage non-metallic sheath cable by bending it too tightly. Okay, so bending of type NM cable, it says shall be made so as one, not to damage the cable. The radius of the inner curve of any bend during and after the installation should not be less than 5 times the diameter of the cable. So here's an example right here. And this right here, so this is your radius, right? This is the diameter, and this is the circumference. So you're bending, you're making a bend, and you're pretending that you're bending it around a object, right? Like a ball or a can or something, okay? So it says the radius of the curve of the inner portion, okay? However you bend it, okay? So it says, how do we obtain this? Well, you go to the product sheet from the manufacturer. The manufacturer will give the information. So in this case, let's say this is 1/2 inch wide, okay? Or it could be 0.5. They give it to you in decimals, okay? Then what we do is we take the 0.5, multiply that by 5, and it's 2.5 from the start of the bend to the end of the bend. So this is your radius. Now the diameter is going to be 2.5 times 5. 2.5 times 2, okay? Because it's one side of the radius and the other side of the radius. The radius equals the diameter. So in this case, it would be a 5-inch ball, okay? Diameter, 5-inch ball, okay? And you're wrapping around it. A lot of people with NM, they like these sharp bends. They like this, okay? Is it probably going to cause a problem? Probably not. Could it cause a problem? It could. Okay, so again, just eliminate your issues. And you might say, Paul, I'm not worried about that. Well, that's okay. You do you. If there is ever a problem and a manufacturer comes in and I get called in, for example, I'm going to look. And if I find one occasion where you bent that NM tighter, then I'm going to make it a big deal and it's going to cause a lot more problems because now I'm going to say, well, guess what? If that was installed that way, what else is wrong in this building? And I'm going to create that reasonable doubt for the judge or the jury. That's my job, okay? All right, here's a good example of what people do. They come down under a box and turn and come back up, all right? There's a high probability that that is too tight. But they do it all the time, okay? So just keep that in mind. And it can get extremer than this. I've seen people take this and then take this because of neatness, and they squish it back tight. So it literally, this side of the sheathing touches this side of the sheathing. It's that tight. Just don't do it. Okay. All right. What about securing and supporting? Well, y'all all are old hats at this. Okay. So this is a graphic that I created a couple of years ago for people to get an illustration. So here we're talking about right here that here's a home run. It comes down. So here we need to secure and support non-metallic sheet cable every 4.5 feet. It's considered supported and secured as it runs through framing members. This is all part of 334.30, by the way. The moment that it comes out of the framing member and starts running parallel, now the rules of the 4.5 feet securing and supporting kick in. And then also you have a requirement to secure it within 12 inches of this box if this box has a clamp. Or if you have a box with a clamp, then you need to secure your non-metallic sheet cable within 12 inches, anywhere in that 12 inches. Now, what if it's a single gang box with a knockout and you just simply knock the hole out of it? So you're not securing the cable actually to the actual box. Well, you do have an allowance for that as long as this box is not larger than 4 by 2.25, which is your typical nail-up box. Then if that's the case, then you have to secure the cable within 8 inches, somewhere within 8 inches, okay? So if you have a clamp on your box, then you're able to go up to 12 before you get your first securement. If you have no clamp built in to clamp the cable, then you have to do it within 8 inches of the box, okay? All right, that type of thing, okay? And this just kind of gives you a kind of a visual depiction. I'll zoom in on this if you want to see it. This is the kind of graphics that I create. So this is an example of a full wall installation right here. So this one right here has a KO, just to knock a plug out of that bad boy. So I'm going to secure it within 8 inches. This one over here, these have got built-in clamps or built-in tension. That counts as a clamp. Then I can go up to 12 inches if I want. Okay, same down here. Okay, this one right here. Now, this right here, for example, from the last securement, see how it just kind of goes over here and then runs in? That would be a violation if it's not secured within what? Within 8 inches. Also, see right here where it comes through the framing member and turns? This doesn't qualify as being secured and supported within 8 inches. That only meant that horizontally. The moment that it comes out, I have to secure it. Now, in this case, a strap right here or staple within 8 inches would also suffice that because it's not more than 4.5 feet here. So one strap here would be fine, or one staple here would be fine. Okay. All right, what about security again? Here's the security important. Now, here you see it says within 12 inches. This is what the rule says right here, within 12. It's not the lay of the cable. It's within the securement within 12 inches. And if this was a single gang nail up that had an opening with no clamp, then it would be within 8 inches. The same way, you measure from the box, not along the cable. Now, the code added something in the 2020 NEC for you folks that like to put the big loops at the boxes. You can still have your loops, I don't care, but you can't have more than 18 inches from the first securement. You can't have more than 18 inches of cable. So you can't come down here and have these big old loops. Now, from here, you can have the 18 inches, but that's it. And that 18 inches is measured along the cable. Okay, that measurement is not from the point that it enters the box to the fastener. It is measured along the cable. So that is an 18-inch rule. And that rule is saying, you know what? I can't have these little loops in there, okay, that are going to be longer than 18 inches. All right. Plastic nail boxes have no connectors. These are these right here. They're built in. They have a little spring tension on them or a little flap that actually will catch the actual cable as it comes in. Then obviously I'm going to secure these within 12 inches, right? Makes sense? Again, talking about amps, 334.80. Remember that you can use the 90 for adjustment and corrective purposes. I'll zoom in on this right here. This is straight out of the National Electrical Code. I can use the 90 for adjustment and corrective purposes. It says it right here. Provided that the end value, whatever we come up with after that, does not exceed that of the 60. In other words, it means that, you know what? If I had a non-metallic sheet cable that was good for this amps, and I did an adjustment and correction, maybe because it's bundling or it's in thermal insulation, and now the amps drop down to here, well, maybe this value is higher than the amps that are permitted under the column and 60-degree column of 316. It doesn't matter. I still can't use that higher amps. I have to stick to the 60. So what's the point? Well, the point is to make sure that I'm going to, after adjustment and correction, that the conductor's available current carrying capacity doesn't drop below the 60-degree column. And if that happens, then I got to go to a bigger conductor, that type of thing. You make sense? So that's what it's talking about here, okay? Now, where 2 or more non-metallic sheath cables containing 2 or more current carrying conductors are installed without maintaining spacing between cables through an opening of wood framing members that is to be sealed with thermal insulation, caulk, or sealing foam, the ampacity of each conductor shall be adjusted in accordance with Table 31015 C1. Okay. Now, what does that mean to me and you? me get back here. So what that means is if I'm going through top plates with foam, if I'm going through framing members where I'm going to foam it or caulk it or that type of thing. I'm running through the exterior walls. There's a high probability that it's going to run through there, but is it going to actually be through the holes or through the board holes or through the framing member? Okay, that type of thing. Now, top plates that come in through the top, they're going to have foam in them to maintain the rating of the assembly. Then that is probably an issue where it's going to be running through it. And you might have to make a actual correction or adjustment, depending on whether the ambient temperature is different or the number of current carrying conductors or cabling, okay, that type of thing. And by the way, this is two current carrying conductors, okay, the black and the white, okay, that type of thing. We got a question here. David says, it's amazing the amount of people try and go through the hole above the box and think that meets the securing within 8 and 12. Yeah. So I see a lot of pictures where they come straight out of the hole. And what David's talking about is right here, right? David's talking about this right here. Well, they think that this here, that they would run a cable through it and take it into the box and not have to have any type of securement on this cable that it comes in, because they think this hole meets the vertical requirement. It doesn't. It meets the horizontal requirement. Also, the moment it come out that hole and it's going down this way, then you have to have the securing requirement. And since this only applies to when it's run horizontal, it has nothing to do with this portion of the cable that's running parallel with the framing member. And that's what David's talking about. I see this all the time. I see them come out and just come out of here and just run straight into a box without putting a strap on it. And then people go, Paul, what's the harm? What's the foul? It's just code. And you're required to follow the code. That's why you're electricians. Is it okay for a surgeon to leave a sponge inside your body, even though it's just a simple sponge? Hell no, it's not okay. You know what I'm saying? You say, Paul, they're not the same. In my mind, they are the same because you're a professional. You're supposed to do things right. I'm just saying. All right, so this is the current carrying. We're not going to get into that. Again, y'all know the deal with the bundling, and there's the common issues of bundling right here through framing members. This is that foam that we were talking about, fire caulking or fire maintain. Here, that looks like they missed one. But this, you got to be careful with the number going through here. Okay. Now, I will tell you this. If you have a hole with foam and you're doing like 12 twos, 14 twos, NMs, you're doing that type of thing, 12-3, 14-3, as long as you don't have more than 9 current carrying conductors, and that means no more than, let's say, 4 14-2s or 4 12-2s or 1 14-3 and 3 14-2s, as long as you don't have more than 9 current carrying conductors, even after you do an adjustment of corrections starting from the ampacity at the 90, even after that, you're still going to be okay. So the golden rule is don't run more than 4 non-metallic sheet cables through one board hole that you're going to be filling with thermal insulation or caulk or sealant, okay? As long as you stick to not more than 4, even after you do the math, you're still going to be okay with a conductor that has the ampacity necessary to do the job. That's a little tip. And I used to teach my apprentices, I said, look, be careful. Do not install more than 4 non-metallic sheet cables through a bored hole that we plan on stuffing insulation in or sealing, that type of thing. Okay. All right. And this is an example of bundling, although it's not a good example because we don't know how far this goes. But this is an example of multi-conductor cables that are bundled without maintaining spacing for over 24 inches. This is just an example of bundling. There is a long time ago, it was very common right here to create what we call trunk lines. I was involved in a case in Colorado where there was a fire due to non-metallic sheet cable because they took a regular dwelling and converted it into a grow house later. And they used all the standard wiring that was in there. They added these lights and these loads. But one of the problems was all of the home runs were trunked just like this. And they're all touching. So inside of it, those cables could not dissipate heat. And now they were adding the higher loads due to the lighting that's necessary for these grow houses. It was causing this insulation to overheat. And eventually it was also dumped in insulation, by the way. It caused the fire condition. So again, it's all because, again, it probably wouldn't have been an issue except for the fact that they just bundled them together. Now, it didn't trip an overcurrent device before it started melting down the products, okay? So anyway, this is probably a good example of a bundling condition. Now, it's truly bundling if it's more than 24 inches without maintaining spacing under 310.15c1. But I think it's a good picture to kind of give you a visualization of bundling. Now, if they were to grab here and pull these cables apart, then again, that would solve that issue, but they don't like it. It doesn't look as pretty. You get me? But again, NEC doesn't care about that. It's going to be enclosed in the wall. We're worried about the long-term function of the product. That's what we're worried about. Okay. So that was just a good graphic to show that. Okay. Now, this is all just the construction stuff. We'll end on this one. 334, again, this tells you that it's got to be 600 volt rated insulation. Sizes of non-metallic sheath cable come in 14 through 2. Or aluminum, you can get aluminum 12 through 2. Believe it or not, yes, it is available to be made in the code. Most of us manufacturers are not going to make aluminum non-metallic sheath cable. But could we as a manufacturer? Absolutely, we could. But we're not going to do it. That smaller sizes like that are more prone to damaging during termination, and it's just a softer material. So we don't as a manufacturer. That's our choice. Most all of it's going to be copper for the most part. 334.108 is the equipment grounded conductor. It's telling you, in addition to the insulated conductors, the cable shall have an insulated, covered, or bare equipment ground. That's another question that people ask me. They say, Paul, I know that non-metallic sheath cable comes with a bare equipment ground. Am I permitted, or could I have an insulated one in non-metallic sheath cable? The answer is yes. Why would the manufacturers do that? Just like the printing, remember earlier? I don't want to spend the extra money to insulate that equipment ground if I ain't got to. So I'm not going to. So the standard doesn't require us to do it. We're going to save money because PVC material is expensive, right? And so we got to put all kinds of flame retardants in it, all kinds of other chemicals in it. So we're not going to do it. So we choose to go with the bare. Okay. Makes sense? Hopefully that makes sense. Insulation. The insulated power conductor shall be one of the types listed in 310.4a. We're going to talk about the different conductors one day. THHN, THWN-2, XHHW-2, RHH, RHW, USC-2, their voltages, their ratings, their applications, when you should use one here, over there, one over another, when should be your go-to for underground installations. We're going to talk about all that in future episodes of Coffee Hour. All right. You'll also notice that the standard of NEC doesn't talk about the dash B, but you see that the cable is marked NMB or NMC-B is considered meeting these requirements. And the dash B just simply means that the insulation inside of the conductor of the cable is rated for 90 so that you can do an adjustment and correction using that 90 degree. Again, can't exceed the 60, but being able to do an adjustment and correction from a higher ampacity is a beneficial thing. Okay, so remember that. The sheathing, the non-metallic sheathing shall comply with 334.16a, and that is when it's NM cable, whether again, the dash B doesn't have to be here because they're all NM. Like the new PCS with the 0 to 10 volt conductors that are in the same cable assembly, that doesn't have to be listed in here as NM PCS because NM covers that product too. Okay, so it says the overall covering shall be flame retardant and moisture resistant. Okay, so that is your normal NM, flame retardant. That way it can go in a home. Right? NMC as not only flame retardant, moisture resistant, but it also have a fungus resistant and corrosion resistant. Not really something that most manufacturers want to make. Why? Because we'll just send you again to UF-B, underground feeder, and that can be used in most of those conditions where fungus and corrosion resistance is required. And in 340, it's going to give you the permission to use it in most of the locations that 334 would allow you to use it anyway. So again, killing two birds with one stone type of approach. Okay. Mr. Kilowatt there, how to strip it. Again, many different ways to strip this stuff. I'm old school. I still use a knife. There's many job sites that don't let you use knives. This is a way to strip it. They have strippers like this that you can crimp onto it. It'll strip it off. Many different ways to do it. Again, I'm old school. I know how to use a knife. It's amazing that most people today don't know how to use a knife. Here are the different components. These are listed. You see this one right here's got a listing. This is a CSA listing. Staples and fasteners typically don't have a listing, but things may change on that. But usually they're identified for use. So the package will identify what it can be used on, how many cables you can put underneath it. So refer to the manufacturer's instructions. Other different types of fittings right here. These are the simple push-in fittings. These are very similar to what you would get on a non-metallic box that has a tensioner built into it, like a 2-gang box, 3-gang box, 4-gang box. Same essential concept. And this is just another view of the stripper, which has this little knife edge here that runs down the middle where the equipment ground is located. Now, people ask me, why do we put the equipment ground in the middle? Well, it's simple, because the standard UL 719 requires it to be in the middle unless you're dealing with a plexed assembly, that type of thing. All right, that is it, folks. I hope you learned something. That's a lot of information. I know you're saying, well, it's just knob. It's just NM cable, but there's still so much to learn about it. So many applications to do it. Okay. And so again, we got to talk about things. So if you've got topics, you're like, dude, that topic bored me. Well, that's your fault, because you can submit topics for future shows over in paulabernathy.com. And if you don't do it, hey, you got to suck it up and take what I give you. All right. So let's do some giveaways really quickly, or get you on the list. Alberto V, I saw you and I did get your email, so don't worry. We'll get you in the next batch. Right now, you missed the last batch that we did, so you'll just have to wait until we get back into the engraving room, and we will get yours out to you. Okay, let's go on and see if we can't spin the wheel here. And let's see here. If I got to find it. Dude, I can't see for squat. All right, well, let's spin this wheel. Let's get you to the contest. I know that's what y'all all come for, really. It's just a I know. If you're interested in the new exclusive, here we go. All right. Enjoying Santana. Santana, you're in the drawing for the 2023 NEC Enhanced. All right. Also, I know I didn't mention this. Well, let me say that after I do this real quick. Let's give away, and then I want to explain something that's coming to Fast Track's Tube, and I will show you what I'm doing on that, so that for all of you that are subscribers, you get to get kind of a peek of what's coming. I do want to show you that, because we're going to make some big changes over at Fast Track's Tube. All right, so let's do this here. And the big reason is because it's become so popular that we are going to make these changes. We'll take one with the arc flash tube. We ain't got those yet, though. All right, Melting Toast. All right, Melting Toast, you're in the drawing for the NFC promo card. Let me make sure you haven't already won that. No, you haven't. Okay. So you're in the melting. A lot of people like that promo card, that type of thing. All right. You're in the drawing for that. All right. Let's spin again. And I realize I'm taking y'all over again. So we have, guys, if y'all ever get in a drawing for anything you've already won or already, it's okay if you've been selected, because you get multiple chances to win. But if you already won something, just let me know. We'll spin you again. But don't just ask to spin again if you don't want what you're on the list for. Okay? Because again, it's the luck of the wheel, that type of thing. But if you've already won it or I've already sent you one, and you're like, dude, spin it again. I've already got that in the mail, that type of thing. All right, Samantha, good luck in the drawing. Adam French, You are in for the coaster. And we do have coasters with him on there. Okay. Buzz Watts. By the way, we're not into merch really that much anymore. So shirts, I have had people reach out and they saw the new color design. And we have a neat one. We have a neat one with Buzz Watts, Ampy, which is his little buddy. It's his sidekick. And in the middle, they've subdued Arc Flash. It's pretty cool where they after him grab him by the arms and they caught him. That's going to be used in a future episode of the podcast series. Okay. So yeah, we have all these, and people say, why would I do this? I'm a grown ass man. I enjoy creating graphics. We enjoy the storylines. It's all just fun. It's all types of things. And you know what? I do what I want to do anyway. And at the end of the day, I enjoy it and it keeps me excited and all that. But we have a neat one that is out there where finally, don't want to spoil the beans, Paul. Spoil the beans. But at some point in that blog series, Art Flash gets caught. Doesn't mean he doesn't escape, but he does get caught by Buzz Watts and Ampy. I'm just saying. All right, so let's go real quick over to the code. I do want to show you. So again, over on the main website here, you'll notice I've done this before, so y'all have all seen this stuff before. But we're going to be introducing gamification on a lot of our interactive videos. So I did want to log in real quick and show you this. So let me go on and log in. I'll log in. Let's see, I'll go in under here. So let's go under interactive videos. Okay. So here you can see one of the things that we're going to be doing, and we're going to be messing with this and creating the way that it does even calculations and everything for you, or how we work this, is that this is, you see down here that you're ranked. And every video, every lesson will have a different ranking. So we're going to do one that does exam prep questions. We're going to do one that does little lessons on things, and it's going to have a ranking system. Right. And you'll be able to go look at the profile of the different people in here, and you can go and click on their name and have a conversation with them. It really can become a community, if you will. Whether you choose to do that or not, that's up to you, but we're doing it anyway. And over on here, if you start, okay, and here it says click the buttons above to get started. And I just want to show you, this is just our first one that was our field test to see how, and right now, Peterson, whoever Peterson is, we can click on it. Walter Peterson is tied in first place with Quint. Okay, that type of thing. But anyway, you click start. All right, and it'll run through, and you watch the video, and then when it gets to the portion, it'll stop, and you have to answer the question. All right. Now, here's the thing. Once you do it, you can't go back over again and redo it in order to make your score better, because that would taint the results. Okay. So basically, you play it and it'll go through. What up, everybody? Paul Abernathy here. Welcome to another educational moment. All right. So I'll just pause it there. It'll go through and then it'll get to a certain point and it'll stop and you have to answer the question. Okay. That type of thing. 10 minutes. Okay. Okay. All right. See, so today we're going to be, it'll go again. Okay. So here's what the code says. So as you move through the navigation, you will answer the questions that's presented right here. Okay. And it's simply to keep you engaged, but it also keeps a score. Okay. That type of thing. So that's what we're working on, and the different stuff that we're trying to put together. And so again, it's going to be gamification. And there's some other little things that we're going to be doing that we'll let you find that out as we get closer to the release of that. But we did put a code up there. It's over on the social media that you can get 25% off if you're not already a member. If you're already a member, you got 3 great things coming. We also have another webinar that's coming in the end of October or 1st of November that, again, is exclusive for people over on Fast Tracks Tube. And obviously, if you're a Fast Tracks member and you have an enhanced program, you're going to get access to this. Okay. So we're going to have a separate webinar just for that. So, yeah, that's just some of the things that we're doing. And you'll earn points. And also in the new program, when you earn points, your points are going to be able to use towards free merchandise over in our store, like wallets and everything else that we offer. So, again, we're going to make it worthwhile to learn and be a part of the program. And for those that don't like that or think it's corny or don't want to get involved in it, that's fine. But for those that want to learn the code, this is just a funner way to learn and be involved and interactive in it. And I'm all about building a community that will engage in it, just like you folks come every week. Okay. So, again, if you're somebody that doesn't care in that stuff, that's fine. Okay. We didn't build it for those people, we build it for the people that are interested in it. Also, I will remind you to check out our website and just so you can, keep up with that. I'm going to go over there real quick. Here on our website, if you want to go to our website, click navigation and you can go to the blogs. Keep up to the blog. There you go. There's our black and white version of Buzz Watts. There's the first episodes available. It's a cute little episode. As it goes on, he'll interact with his nemesis, Arc Flash, and you'll see Ampy get introduced. But down here is the Legend of Buzz Watts. It's just a cute little read. I mean, again, you're sitting around, you're having lunch. Just, again, if it's not your type of thing, then don't do it. I don't care. But anyway, if you click on it, you will see that in the blog, it will be a little story on it. And here you'll learn the origins of Buzz, his quest, how he came about, how he was created, that type of thing. And some people say to me, why the hell did you use a CFL? Because he was born during the CFL era, logically, right? So, anyway, all right, folks, we just like to have fun here. I like to stay busy. We are always doing something. If there's anything you can say about me, is I never sit still. We are always doing something, involved in something, creating something, trying to create another way to teach people, make it engaging. And again, if you're looking at funny stuff on TikTok or you're looking at all that kind of stuff, then you should have no problem following the adventures of Buzz Watts. I'm just saying. All right. And then let's see what what kind of trouble Arc Flash can cause. I'm just saying. All right, folks. Till next time, stay safe. God bless. We'll catch you on another episode of Coffee Hour with Paul. Take care.